Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Speak Crime to Me. My name is Elena. On today's episode, I am going to do a quick update on two cases that I've been following here on Speak Crime to Me, the Idaho 4 murders, and then the story of Lindsay Clancy and her 3 children that were killed recently. So let's dive in. So first I'm going to just give a Idaho 4 update just to kind of update you all as to what you all on current information that's being reported in the news and different news outlets and things like that. As always, I want to remind everyone that I am not here saying that this information is true. I'm just here to tell you all what is out there. So as usual, please make sure you do your own research. Kaylee and Maddie were killed first, and then Ethan was killed in the doorway with his throat slashed. And then that Xana was killed last. She fought very hard to save her life, even by grabbing the knife, and she almost severed her own fingers because of how much force she was trying to defend herself. There's also a kind of strange story out there that there is a girl in Kentucky. Her name is Brittany Highslope, and she is in love with Bryan Kohberger, apparently sending her notes and things like that in jail. I find that a little odd, but we hear about things like this all the time, so just wanted to put that out there. Also, it had been reported that Bryan Kohberger visited the Idaho Student Union several times before the murders. Witnesses were saying that he just kind of stood out, and he was the type of guy to just stare at you for a while, and it made people uncomfortable. Also been reported that Bryan's bushy eyebrows might have played a bigger link to the murders, and I'm going to explain why here in a minute. So I did a video a couple weeks ago about a report first air mail that had come out with some kind of shocking details, and then this person wrote a second follow-up article to the first one, part 2, and this kind of focused a lot more on Bryan and his life and things like that. So I'm just going to go through some key points of that article. In the article, it was mentioned that Bryan and his father had a very rough and combative relationship. There's also been reports that the FBI actually lost surveillance of Bryan and his vehicle once he left Washington State Pullman. The FBI has denied this, but I just, again, putting this out there because this was in the article. A bit more details on how investigators or police found the white Hyundai Elantra. So Daniel Tiago with the Washington State Police was doing graveyard shifts. So he spent his midnight hours going through inventory of white Hyundai Elantras at the university, and that's when he found Bryan Kohberger's white Elantra. About a half an hour later, another police officer kind of did like an eyeball drive-by of Bryan Kohberger's car parked at his apartment and noticed that now the vehicle had the Washington State plates. We know he had Pennsylvania plates and then recently changed those plates because they were about to expire after the murders. And then the Idaho State Police transferred this information passed it on to Brett Payne, who then started to do research on his own, pulling up the vehicle registration as well as a photo of Bryan Kohberger. And that is when he noticed the bushy eyebrows and remembered that from Dylan's statement that she had given when she saw the killer in moments after all the murders. Here is a very interesting piece of information. Again, not sure if this is confirmed, but just putting this out there. Apparently in Loma, Colorado, they installed their first ever traffic light, and they were the first. They had recently just installed their very first traffic light, and that install was the first surveillance of Brian's car coming from Washington State on the drive to Pennsylvania. And I hadn't heard this, but apparently during the drive with his father, Brian received a ping alert on his phone at 3:20 p.m. on December 15th that a student that advising students to shelter in place. Apparently, a man had threatened to kill his roommates and barricaded himself into his apartment with a rifle. So some are alluding to the fact that since this happened during the drive, wouldn't it have probably have pinged Brian's father to maybe ask Brian about the Idaho 4 murders? Again, this is alleged. We're just trying to get in the minds of Brian and his dad on this road trip. But I do think that is probably could potentially have been a conversation. And then we know during one of those traffic stops that Brian was talking about that they were going to go get Thai food, and then his dad talks about that they are coming from Washington State University, and that I know that video is, and the audio is very hard to make out, but apparently the father starts talking about that recent shooting that just had happened, that suspect that barricaded himself, police ended up killing him, and then started talking about SWAT teams, which seems very strange. The last piece of information in this article, I think this has been talked about before, but we know once he got to Pennsylvania, he took his Hyundai Elantra in to get serviced at a nearby service dealership right by his parents' home. He was also spotted wearing gloves as he was cleaning his car. And then he also deposited trash in his neighbor's garbage can around 4 a.m. one day. So just some strange behavior that he started to partake in once he got back from Pennsylvania. Who knows? You wonder, since he got pulled over twice in that road trip, was he feeling then that the police or the FBI were narrowing in on him? Who knows? So that is the update for now on the Idaho 4 murders. I will continue to keep up with anything that hits the news to share with you all. So let's dive into the latest on Lindsay Clancy and her 3 children that were supposedly murdered by her. So let me give you guys some background again on the Lindsay Clancy story. So Lindsay Clancy is accused of killing her 3 young children by strangulation. Apparently this occurred when her husband left the home for about 20-25 minutes as he went to go get some takeout food. And then after these strangulations, Lindsay Clancy tried to kill herself by jumping out a window, and that is when the 911 call was made, and Lindsay was then taken to a hospital to recover from this failed suicide attempt, and her 3 young children have passed away. I had mentioned that she had posted on Facebook at a time that she was struggling from mental health. She also had taken a leave of absence from her nursing position, and it is speculated that she could be suffering from PSD psychosis. I believe that's what they're saying, and that has not been confirmed. I'm just saying that is something that has been out there. There was a pre-trial hearing last week, and Lindsay Clancy's attorney is claiming that she was over-medicated when these murders happened, and that she's not responsible because she was involuntarily intoxicated on medications. As I just mentioned, she's still in the hospital recovering. Some say she cannot walk. However, they have not detailed her injuries, so we're not really sure what is exactly wrong with her. All we know that she is still in the hospital recovering. She is writing and able to verbally communicate. She's only allowed in contact right now with her legal counsel and the medical staff. And she is going to be undergoing a psychological evaluation here soon. The judge also granted that she is allowed to speak with her parents, and allegedly they said that yes, she was over medicated, but she was taking apparently over a dozen medications. Right now that she is accused of murdering her 3 young children, and now her defense is saying that she was over medicated, intoxicated, and was not really responsible for her actions, her state of mind, that I guess you could say. So that is the latest on the Lindsay Clancy story. I feel like this is a very important story to talk about, or to keep talking about. Thousands of Americans, thousands of people around the world suffer from mental health. And I feel like this could be a very interesting case, or a precedented case, actually, if, all these accusations are true, that she was over medicated, trying to help herself. Some of the alleged information out there. So as always, make sure you do your own research, and I will continue to follow this case closely and update you all when we have more updates. So thank you all again for joining me here on Speak Crime to Me. Until next time.